Welcome to the Skating Lesson Podcast. I'm Jennifer Kirk, a former U.S. ladies competitor and a 3-time world team member.
I'm David Leese. I'm a figure skating blogger and a current adult skater.
In this video, we are thrilled to discuss the pair event at the 2013 World Championship, previewing it with Canadian journalist Pj Kwong. There are a bunch of pairs with names that I cannot pronounce, so I am thrilled to have Dave here to pronounce those names with us, and hopefully Pj can help us out as well.
All right, so going into the World Championships, the pairs event is the one event that looks to be the clearest cut for many people, but we do have a rivalry at the top with Tatiana Voloshazar and Maxim Tronkov against Alyona Savchenko and Robin Solkowy. And PJ, there has been such buzz that the Russians are going to be the Olympic champions and Russia will restore their dominance in pairs for a while now with this team Voloshazar and Tronkov. Do you feel that they are the best in the world?
I love them. I haven't seen them skate to their absolute best yet, I don't think, this season, but I love their match. I love the fact that what they're doing is stuff that we can sort of understand and appreciate. They have beautiful body line, and I just I think that they're terrific. Alyona and Robin are wonderful athletes, and they are technically very, very strong, but they tend to make mistakes. So when you put the two teams side by side, for me, it's the Russians.
You know, I think the biggest strength of Alyona and Robin is they are so competitive, and I don't see them handing over that title. I think they're going to fight for it. I don't love their long program this season, though, the bolero. I don't like the, it's the outfits. It's like she's wearing a little tube top, like a bathing suit top and the leg warmers. I mean, but beyond that, it doesn't seem like the music the crowd can get behind it. It's very monotonous. I love that they're doing harder elements later in their program than the Russians, but I think it's going to be really a fight for that title, but I see it going to the Russians. What do you think, Dave?
So this year, I think what's really interesting is that the Russians are really the more understated team, and they have that classical look to them. Perhaps some think that their program might be a little bit boring, whereas the Germans are always in your face, and it either is amazing or it falls flat. I thought that they were going to change the program this year. It reminded me of the fall of 2009, when they changed the program before the Vancouver Olympics. Where that program just fell flat, and they changed it. And I thought that they were going to do that this year because they're in this heated rivalry. And they've had really interesting material the last couple of years. I actually loved their programs at the end of the season, and not what they did at the beginning of the year, but it kind of won me over and it grew, and it's not happening this year. They constantly are trying to put the technical ante by doing the throw triple axel. They're not doing it this year, but they tried it last year, and they're putting those sow cows in. I don't see it all coming together this year for them. I see the Russians really, I think that they are going to deliver. They had a great skate at Russian Nationals, and I think that this will be their year, but I think it is still neck and neck. Now, I'm wondering which Canadian team is going to be the third place team, because I think that both Canadian teams have a great shot at that bronze medal, and they're really neck and neck. Kirsten Moore-Towers and Dylan Moskovich, as well as Megan Duhamel and Eric Radford. Who do you give the edge to in terms of fighting for that bronze medal?
Do you know what? I give the edge to Megan and Eric for a couple of reasons. And this is, again, we're going based on everybody skating well. Megan and Eric have a bit of an edge technically, and I think that that's what sort of pushes them ahead a little bit. I have to say that Kirsten and Dylan have done a remarkable job of creating much more of that oneness that you need to see in pair skating. And they've come a long way in a very short time. So I'm very impressed by what they've done. Megan and Eric are not what we would call sort of a natural pair together. I mean, she's so very small and he's so very tall that they've done a lot of work to try and minimize the effect of that. So, but, you know, when you put side-by-side triplets together, that'll get you sort of a good bang for your buck. The fact that, you know, they are able to do some pretty impressive tricks. So I think that that's where they get it. Dylan and Kirsten, you cannot count them out because if Megan and Eric make even one mistake, that opens the door for Moore-Towers and Moskovich to move ahead because they are so neck and neck, those two teams. So I'm really hopeful that they will, that the Canadian teams will really move up in the ranking this year.
What do you think, Jen?
You know, I see Megan and Eric having the edge a little bit. They just seem like a more seasoned pair. I like their long program. Consistency was an issue at Four Continents. I love that they're doing the throw triplets, the side-by-side triplets. Amazing to see such strong single skaters. But they will have to put it together when it counts. I think in terms of Moore-Towers and Moskovich, I love their triple toe sequence in their free program. There's a smoothness. It seems like they're coming together more than we've seen in previous seasons. But that long program, it doesn't really grab me. I still think that as skaters, they need a little bit more seasoning. They need to skate to the audience a little bit more, and hopefully it'll help having the event in Canada. I see both teams, though, definitely top 10, maybe even top 5, but I see Eric and Megan having the edge. What do you think, Dave?
I keep going back and forth. All along, I have thought that Eric and Megan will be the bronze medalists at the World Championships. I thought that it was between them and Pang and Tong. But I'm, watching Kirsten, and I think that they're coming along, Wartowers and Moskovich.
I think so,
and I
too.
think they're very consistent, and if not for that throw triple loop, they would be the Four Continents champions. And I think that they have figured out their technique, and I think based on their solidity, they might be able to do a clean program. Megan Duhamel and Eric Bradford, they might go for the harder skills, and perhaps they'll make a mistake, and I think that could be the interesting storyline. So I'm not sure which team it is. I think it'll be one of them. But what do you make of the Chinese?
It's not this year for them. Wenjing Sui, and is that who you're talking about? I'm sorry, because it blanked out a little bit.
I think all of them.
Hong Han, yes. I think that the Chinese pair program, with the loss of Shen and Zhao and the loss of Zhang and Zhang, that some of their, and Pang and Tong are still in the mix, but you know what? They are he's plagued with injuries. So pairs is one of those things where you really have to be in tip-top condition. It is so demanding. There isn't much time to sort of rest in between. So I sort of see them as a little bit, I see them at a huge disadvantage. I don't think that they have the physical abilities that they once had. So I always feel badly for teams that I hope that they get that one last hurrah is what I hope for. I hope for them to be able to Kevin Vanderpeer their way out of the competition with a sensational skate. So that's what I think about them. I don't think that they are at the level of the other teams at this point. But then again, it is competition, and if other people make mistakes and they don't, who knows what can really happen. But I'm like you. I think that maybe they're a little bit past their prime.
Yeah, I think with Pang and Tong, their strength is actually also their weakness. They are seasoned. So if some of these younger pairs, they succumb to those nerves of the World Championships, I think that's where Pang and Tong can really rely on their experience. But on the flip side, or conversely, as Dave would like to say, that they're older. Their body is gonna wear down, tear down a little bit. Their throws are just magnificent. The split twist, the speed, the command, they have that presence on the ice that we see from the top two teams that I don't think some of the other teams in the mix quite have quite yet. But again, it's injury and it's inconsistency, and I think that's the biggest thing when we think of Chinese pairs. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I wonder if Pang and Tong are allowed to retire if they wanted to. We see in gymnastics a lot of time where some of the Chinese gymnasts, it seemed like they were often pushed, incentivized. Who knows if they were allowed to? Who knows? If they want to keep continuing. It seems like they continue past their prime. And I think with Pang and Tong, they could pull it out. Like they got a medal at the Grand Prix final. They're fabulous, but I don't see them moving up. I think it's like Brian Joubert. I don't see them improving. So, and we talk about injuries. Well, we have Kavaguti and Smirnov. Kavaguti, often her shoulder would dislocate on the ice when they would go for that throw quad Salchow. What do you make of them? Do you think they're past their prime as well?
I do. I think that very, very intermittently have they had beautiful programs. Believe it or not, I loved her Swan Lake. I thought it was exquisite. When she wore the real ballerina tutu, I thought it was beautiful. I think that some of their stuff occasionally is over the top. If you're gonna play act on the ice, if you're gonna have that sort of, face expressions and all the rest of it, please make me believe it, because otherwise I feel sort of a little bit embarrassed for people, and they're over the top for stuff. So they tend to be over the top a lot for me in terms of expression. And again, I don't buy it. Whatever they're selling, I don't buy it. Again, I give Yuko huge credit for enduring the kind of pain that she must have to endure in order to compete. I think that Tamara Moskvina is a very, very clever coach. But I do not think that Kavaguti and Smirnov are in contention for a medal this year unless they get a lot of help or a really serious flu bug attacks the hotel.
Don't say that. Those poor skaters. That happened at Nationals one year, U.S. Nationals. Dave, what do you think about Kavaguti and Smirnov?
I'm kind of sad that Tamara Moscovina's legendary coaching career might end with this team that's not as fabulous as some of the teams she's had in the past. I think that it's a little sad for me. I think that they've just never quite gotten those two programs together that look together.
Yep.
I always worry for her health. Her arms seem to hyperextend in all sorts of ways, and
She's guppy out there.
It's a bit hard to watch. They don't have that typical line, and I admire her perseverance. She loves skating. She wanted to skate with Tamara, so I think. What do you think of the Americans? Our program, I think, is politely, you could call it a hot mess. If you're being honest, you could call it disastrous. We just heard today that another one of our pairs perhaps split up. You know, there are rumors about that. They're not one of our world team, but one of our other teams split up. So what do you make of the American chances? I think we'll be lucky to get in the top 10.
Well, I think that you will get the top 10. I think that Marissa and Simon are solid skaters. They're honest skaters, I like to call them. And I think that they got a huge boost by what they did at the Four Continents Championship. So I think on the strength of that, they kind of remind me, their correlation in the Europeans would be Stefania Berton and Andre Hotarek, who again, I think that there's something to be said for that kind of confidence that you get when you medal at a big event. So it's the same. We're going to call it the Kevin Reynolds factor, because I think it's going to help Kevin as well. So I think that you're right. The American pairs are in a bit of a state right now, but junior world pair title today, right? So, and a very funny tweet that said, please, 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 U.S. pair fans want you to just stay together.
Please stay together. Yeah, I think Marissa and Simon, they have such power on the ice. Great split triple twist. Consistency a little bit off. We saw it for continents. The side-by-side spin, it was very off in their free program. They're only doing a throw double axel, where if you compare that to Megan and Eric doing the throw triplets, I mean, you can't really compare that. But I expect a strong skate from them, hopefully a top 10 finish. And you talk about winning junior worlds for U.S. pair teams. The future looks bright, and let's just stay together. So guys, wrapping things up, let's get your predictions. PJ, let's start with you.
I'm going to go with the Russian pair team, Tatiana Volosojar and Maxim Trenkov as the world champions, followed closely by the Germans. And then I think I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I think it's going to be Megan Duhamel and Eric Radford, on the strength of them saying at the beginning of the season that they want on the podium, and they were willing to put in the work to make that happen. So
my predictions are exactly the same as yours, PJ. And
Yay!
We have been on this show, PJ. We're like on the same wavelength. How about you, Dave? Are you going to mix things up a bit?
I think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be that. I think Pang and Tong will be 4th, and Moore-Towers and Moscovich will be 5th.
Okay.
So that's what I think will happen.
Yep. Well, PJ, we are going to be tweeting you. You're so lucky to be there.
Yes.
You know, in person. You're going to have to give us all of the gossip, the backstage scoop. This has been just such a thrill to see you, this way, because we have talked over Twitter and email. Yes. Thank you for spending so much time with us and going through all the events. And it was just, I really enjoyed it.